The views discussed in this conversation are the views of individuals and not of Arrington Capital. This podcast is provided solely for informational purposes and is not financial, legal, tax, or investment advice. The participants of this podcast are not recommending any particular security, protocol, token, financial instrument, or other tradable asset or any investment strategy. It is not offering to sell or soliciting to buy any security or asset.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pirate Pod from Arrington Capital. We have been long-term investors in our guest today, and I'm really excited to dive in on SkyFire, which likely our listeners have never heard of as they are in the process of closing a really exciting raise that they're announcing. The team's building in an entirely new category, one of those places that I think we all saw coming in crypto, but payments for AI. Where you no longer need humans because transactions are initiated and executed by AI, and there's a lot to make that possible and make that happen. Much of the AI and machine learning companies are making money by providing SaaS models that are specifically built for humans today, but AI agents also need to be smart and have purchasing power all to their own. We're going to dive in today on how bots are working, how the infrastructure is going to change, why humans don't need to be gatekeepers, what industries are going to be using AI agents for payments, the incumbents and what they're doing. But with all of our podcasts, we like to start by diving in on our founders. Today we have Amir Senhangi and we have Craig DeWitt with us. Amir, could you kick us off and tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey into crypto and what led you to SkyFire's?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here on with you, Kelly. This is awesome. Also, I love the theme of this podcast, which I can really relate to. So this is my third startup. I have no idea why I was crazy enough to do a third one after doing two. My second startup I sold to Google, which became essentially the default messaging on Android. So if you've ever used an Android device, the messaging experience, basically it's like iMessage for Android, was what we did at Jive. And that became essentially now over 1 billion users use it. So it was an amazing experience being there at Google and working with that team. We now actually, Apple just announced that iPhone is also going to be using that same technology, which means that green bubble problem that a lot of you have with Android users goes away. So I'm really excited about that. So I did that until 2015 and then was at Google for about 3-4 years and then joined Craig at Ripple, where I was leading the product team there at Ripple. And that was an amazing experience. First, diving into crypto and understanding this crazy world of crypto. I was very intrigued by this idea of money being able to instantly move because I dealt with, as a CEO of a company, I dealt with banks, I dealt with wires, which are just insanely not efficient. And in this day and age, I just didn't understand why money couldn't just move just like a message could. So Craig and I built and worked at Ripple for 4 years and built out what's now called on-demand liquidity. And Craig can tell you a little bit more about that and his experience in payments.
Cool. Yeah, Kelly, really excited to be on. My journey started, I was in college at Berkeley when the financial crisis happened. So that 2008, 2009 thing. And all the shenanigans pissed me off. It still kind of pisses me off. That was the first time I think I kind of rose the pirate flag of like something needs to change here. And I went to work at Bloomberg, like fintech, trying to make things more transparent. And it was there that I saw this fascinating world of people moving their data centers closer to where information was released so they could race electrons to be able to make better trades. And then the payment would happen on this thing called Swift that would take 3 days to settle. It's like, what? So I went to Stanford with the idea of like, hey, there has to be a better way to fundamentally change how payments work so they could be instant the way information moves. That's where I fell in love with Bitcoin. And that's also where I met Chris Larson, who had recently founded the company Ripple. So I was early at Ripple. I worked there for 7 years building RippleNet. It's where I met Amir and learned a ton about how crypto can make payments better. And now I'm excited to make payments better for AI agents.
Super interesting backgrounds, the two of you coming together and now doing SkyFire. Before we dive into SkyFire, can one of you, Amir, maybe can you talk about what the existing landscape looks like, just for those that aren't living and breathing payment details, Swifts and wires every single day? What's out there that could have solved this and why did you go down this path?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So look, I mean, both at Ripple and my previous experience, we learned a ton about how payments work and what doesn't work in payments. When we started looking at the AI space, one of the things that we noticed was that today, there are a lot of big promises for AI, right? AI is going to essentially replace a lot of things humans do. But initially, a lot of these initial use cases that are being done are fairly simple ones. They're starting to get more complicated. But what we saw was that anytime that a AI agent wanted to really complete a complex task, it would always need a human being to get involved. And most of the time, those reasons had to do something to do with a financial transaction. An AI agent wanting to buy something, an AI agent wanting to pay for something, and or there wasn't even a monetization layer for developers. So if you look at the large LLMs today, they're making money because people use them like a search engine and pay them for using inference and using those services. But then when you go into a LLM or a chat experience and then say, hey, I need to create a logo or I need to create a presentation, that LLM reaches out to a developer or another company that's plugged into it to request for that service to be done. But today, there's no way for that developer to monetize other than getting the user to come directly to them to pay for that service. And we saw that as definitely a missing layer that had to be there in order for AI to reach its promise. And that's really what we set out to do. One of the things that we realized as and looking at that is like, why hasn't that really happened yet? Is because it's a different type of a payment. It's a different type of an experience that's required for these transactions to work. One, it needs to be 24/7. It's global in nature because AI developers are everywhere. And then thirdly, probably most important, is that a lot of times these transactions are very small in nature. So these are microtransactions of sub $5 that need to be made. Today, the existing infrastructure doesn't support that. A card, like a credit card today, basically, the smallest amount you can do maybe is $5, right? Anything below that just doesn't even make sense. Additionally, banks and other payment rails that exist today really don't provide an instant experience and cannot support small transactions. These are super, fast, quick, instant experiences that need to be delivered to these AI developers. And that's really what we set out to solve.
The AI space ready, SkyFire? Is there enough, from a microtransactions or apps that have been built that require that? Is it ready? Is AI ready for this?
Absolutely. What we're seeing today is that, first of all, agents and developers are hungry for monetization. They need to be able to make money in order for them to be successful and be able to grow their businesses. So first and foremost, there needs to be a monetization layer for them in order for them to succeed and become and be able to deliver more features and capabilities for end users. Secondly, even for large LLMs, what you're seeing is that with AI, you just have a different model of how things need to get paid for, because really you have AI agents that can talk to any other agent, and you have many different LLMs that exist out there, which means that at any moment, you need to be able to deliver services to any AI agent that comes to you. And today, really, that is not possible because the payment infrastructure doesn't exist for you to be able to do on-demand payments. You'll have to, create subscriptions and or create accounts in order to be able to fulfill some of those promises, and that just is not possible.
Craig, if we can switch to you for a minute and talk a little bit more about at the core what SkyFire is. What is the product? What is it doing? And also, why can't I just input my credit card number to whatever AI agent and have it just do all my dirty work? Can you walk us through what it is specifically?
Yeah. You can think of us as a Visa for AI. And what it allows AI agents to hold balances, to make payments, and then also receive payments for the services that they deliver. So we are built on top of digital dollars. There's USDC that these agents have access to within a wallet. What's really cool about what we built is this integrates a proof of payment as part of an API call. So we're using the payment piece as actual authorization into the APIs, which means that now any AI anywhere in the world can access and pay on demand to an existing API in exchange for that service back. What we're seeing today happen is you have a number of developers who are using this to go out and pay for access to the hundreds of different models, more growing every single day, so they can pay a tenth of a cent to access a brand new model that does a very specific thing on an on-demand basis without having to have a pre-existing account at that model or that service. So like, why can't you just do it on a credit card today? Well, credit cards are pretty difficult to use in this manner. And the reason is number one, you have a minimum amount that you can actually pay with a credit card. And so it's about $5, the absolute minimum that you can do. But in reality, these agents need to be able to go out and in some cases do a tenth of a cent or even a millionth of a cent to access a model and pay for that. So you can't do that with a credit card. Just function. The second piece is, how do agents actually have access to a credit card? Agents are these autonomous entities that exist digitally that are going out and doing things, but they don't have birth certificates. They don't have driver's licenses. So it's really hard for an AI agent to walk into a bank and get a credit card permission for it. So it can't have its own credit card, which means it has to use yours. And without the guardrails that programmable money has, it's kind of scary giving an AI agent just your credit card to go out and spend it. And on top of that, if you're a developer and you've worked in payments, you know how difficult it is to manage things like PCI compliance and to navigate all these human-centric guidelines that have been put around cards, like the CVC code and the banking protections of like getting text messages to permission payments. It's just, that whole system is designed for humans from the ground up over the last 75 years. And what SkyFire has done is it's built on completely new rails using digital assets and programmable money to allow these agents direct control to pay for the services that they need on an on-demand basis.
Have you two thought about the size of that market? Like, some of this stuff is coming to life right now, right? And I'm not even sure the full scope of what's possible has really been realized. How do you think about the size of the market for this and what that looks like?
Yeah, we've done some back of the envelope calculation on this, and we believe this is in the next 5 years is going to be like a $46 billion industry. It could be even bigger. Our numbers are just based on what existing research has been done in this space. A big reason for this is that enterprises are going to start selling their services differently, because AI agents are going to be the next customer for them, right? The next million customers are going to be AI agents. And that means that if you are an enterprise, you need to have APIs. If you have a website, a consumer website or an enterprise website, you need to have APIs that are ready for agents to be able to directly engage with you and be able to essentially buy from you. So they're going to be the next consumer, and they're going to be additive. So it's not like it's going to necessarily take away from existing business, but it will be additive. And more importantly, there's a new business model that needs to fit that. And that is that when an AI agent comes to you, it just wants to solve a problem, right? So you could be one of 10 steps that it's trying to get done in a very quick amount of time. And therefore it needs, let's say, for you to create a logo for them or create a presentation. And they need to be able to, the agent needs to be able to pay for that instantly and then be able to receive that. One of the areas that we really see as a huge opportunity here is data and infrastructure. Today, you have to go do a major deal in order to have access to data. We see that as something that's going to be much more on demand, where an agent comes to a data owner and basically says, I want to use your data, and is able to pay for that access and then be able to have essentially a license to that data. We're already talking to folks that are wanting that use case to be real today. There's a big need around that today.
Just in terms of the scale of the market, what we see happening is a fundamental change in the way that software is going to be sold in general. I think we had the explosion of mainframes back in the day, which then moved over to the SaaS subscriptions in terms of how software is sold. And now with the advent of agents, we're seeing a transformation in the way software is going to be sold. Again, it's not going to be SaaS based, which is really about humans paying for those subscriptions. It's going to be on-demand access by these agents. And these agents are going to be millions of them. And there's more of them created every single day that both need the ability to go out, find these services and pay for them, and also monetize their own services. And so when you think about the scale of this opportunity, it's the same scale as like software, because this is the future of how these businesses are going to monetize and how software is accessed.
How ready do you think that most companies that have a SaaS model right now, do you think they're aware of this change that's coming?
Definitely, they're aware. Not all of them, but you have CEOs like Aaron Levy from Box, making comments on Twitter and talking about how every single software company needs to be ready for this new future. You have Brian Armstrong and other CEOs similar to him also saying the same things, where AI agents are going to be a customer of enterprises, and that means that you have to have new pricing, and you have to be ready to be able to actually sell your services in this on-demand fashion. And that's really where we see the big opportunity, is that there's really no financial layer that supports that, because it has to happen instantly, and it has to be in this new form where a lot of times these transactions are much smaller. That's the reality of how it will work in the future.
Can we double click on use cases a little bit? I know we've talked about the SaaS one, but if you step back, who's going to be using this? Is this a Web3 or an AI native, or a SaaS-based platform only? Or are you going to be building things, for my mom to tell her Alexa that she's out of, and then it gets delivered to her door next day because it just shows up? Like, can you walk us through some of the use cases and industries that will specifically, I think, benefit from this early on, or get there quicker, and then those that'll take a little longer to get there?
Definitely. Obviously, we think of ourselves, like Craig said, we're like Visa or Stripe for this industry. So there are many different use cases. We're definitely at heart, we've spent the last 7 years of our life in crypto. So that's where we started. And a lot of our thinking is how can the crypto industry really leverage us? One of the, couple of examples there I'll give you, and then Craig can talk about some of the non-crypto examples. In the crypto space, for example, you have a lot of players now doing on-demand GPU as an example. Think of a scenario where an AI agent needs additional GPU. Well, today they have to go create an account or connect a wallet in order to be able to access that additional GPU. With SkyFire, that can be completely automated. So that account creation and use of that additional GPU can happen instantly with brand new agents, which I think is a great experience. And it's very positive for the company that's obviously selling the GPUs, because now there's no friction in onboarding these new agents onto their ecosystem. And we see that with many different parts within the crypto space, where there are companies in the gaming space that obviously have a need for microtransactions, but they also need liquidity in and out of particular tokens, and need all that to be instant when it comes to dealing with agents. And that's an area where we believe we can play a good role. And there are many other examples, because we've talked to a lot of folks in the space, and there seems to be a lot of excitement about the ability to be able to do this all autonomously, and not having to, as a developer, having to kind of be involved in creating those accounts and having to kind of stop the process of an agent being automated.
Well, everybody's head always goes to the travel agent for whatever reason. And if you think about what AI does today in terms of like book me a trip to Italy, it's essentially glorified search, right? So where it'll come back with, here are the things we think you should do. Okay, now go to each of those websites, put in your credit card for each of those websites, book it, and then I've done my job as an AI. That's not the promise of AI. The promise of AI is when it wants to book that Italian vacation for you, it's able to give you examples of what to do. You're able to choose those, and then the agent is able to go out and book each one of those for you, without you having to go to every single site. You shouldn't even have to go to the sites at all. And so those are the kind of experiences that we bring to market. The folks that we're actually working with today, I think some interesting examples people might not normally think about is car manufacturing and supply chain. So a lot of these folks, and a lot of the folks who have those kind of supply chains have invested heavily in AI already. Really intelligent about going out and ordering parts on an on-demand basis and making sure that things are in just a time basis where they should be. But then actually paying for those on a global supply chain requires human beings at the end of the month doing accounts payable and wire transfers, and it's an absolute mess. So integrating the actual payment into the ordering process is something where we're seeing a lot of interest here. The other place is agent builders. So there's this whole industry growing right now of these orchestration players that help developers build agents that can do things. So kind of like if then, but better. Those agents can't do what AI is supposed to do because they can't pay for things. And so getting us integrated into those agents to give their developers an edge so they can actually go do things in the real world is a place where we have folks using this today. We also have another one of AI making requests to humans to do physical tasks. And so this is where AI agents are actually paying humans to do physical things. We are a way for agents to access that service and to pay humans to do those things. And then like Amir said, all the infrastructure that happens behind the scenes in terms of GPU, technical resources, hosting, those are all things that agents can pay for on an on-demand basis without asking for help from a developer or somebody else to get involved. So that is kind of the future of these fully autonomous things, being able to go out, doing real world things, because without it, AI can't live up to its promises.
Really interesting take, especially when you think about things have to go both ways. You brought up developers, Craig, a little bit. Can we talk more about how SkyFire is making things easy for developers? How easy will this be to plug in and build with? What does it mean for a rollout or fast deployments?
Yeah. There's two sides of the market in this case, and that is one, developers need to create agents that can go out and actually do things. It's like pay for things. And the second is developers want agents that can actually be monetized. And so on the first one, there's really no way to do it without SkyFire today. And this promise of AI fundamentally changing the world cannot happen without something like SkyFire enabling these agents to make payments. And so in terms of what a developer needs to do to integrate this, anybody can sign up for app.skyfire.xyz. You'll have an account. That account has wallets. It allows you to set budgets for your agents. And then within there, you can see all the services that are available that you can directly integrate to and allow your agent to interact with and make payments to. That's very easy. It's just making API calls with a SkyFire API key. And in fact, with the beauty of AI, if you just import the schema, your agent is automatically connected to this. So that is very, very quick, very, very easy, and allows you to do something else you can't do today, which is allow your AI to make payments. On the other side, I think this is really interesting, is that a lot of these AI agents that you see today, I would classify as occasional use. And so you might need to use it once, you might need to use it, just occasionally. And again, it's impossible to get somebody to sign up for a SaaS subscription to that. And so that's where the monetization comes in. And if your AI agent is accessible via an API, you can use SkyFire as a way of accepting payment in exchange for authorization to use that API. And so in that case, we have what we call the receiver SDK, which is just a wrapper around your existing API. You get up and running on that, and now you're good to go in terms of receiving funds or receiving money to your agent in exchange for whatever services they're delivering via that API.
How quickly do you think that this is rolled out and becomes the norm? I mean, where are you at in your business with SkyFire? I know you just raised a bunch of money. You've been building here for a bit. How quickly do you think this is reality, what you're outlining here?
Well, the product is real today, and that's one I'm really excited to roll out. It's in beta, but we're very excited. We have people today, so there's real money being moved in exchange for services between agents. What we are working very aggressively on is an exciting roadmap of us getting to a position where we can have more and more services that are available on this network and kind of open the tent so anybody can join this on a global basis. The things that we need to do on a product side to make this more accessible to the non-crypto folks are in the effort that we do on our on and off ramps. What I mean by that is, how do you get people who have fiat money around the world to put money into the system to be able to allow their agents to pay? And then how do you go out and make sure that that is easily accessible to be withdrawn and put in bank accounts around the world as well? And so what our job is to do is to make this as seamless as possible for anybody in the world to use, because there's a demand there right now. And it's about getting people over the hurdle to make this as easy as possible in as short amount of time as possible. I would say by the end of the year, we should be in a position to where we have a killer end-to-end product that anybody can use without any crypto knowledge at all.
That's ambitious and exciting. How's SkyFire making money? Are you charging a fee? I'm assuming it competes with Visa or credit card fee. How does SkyFire earn revenue?
Yeah, it's very similar to them. We charge a small transaction fee. And then really where we see our opportunity for monetization in the future is in value-added services. So one of the value-added services we'll provide is verification of agents, because one of the issues that will be important here moving forward is when you're an agent and let's say you're buying something from Craig, you want to know that agent or that entity that you're dealing with is really Craig. So we will do the verification and onboarding as part of our experience, and there will be a verified by sign for those who go through the verification process. It's an open protocol, so anybody can use it. You don't necessarily have to be verified, but that's another monetization area, and we'll have other value-added services that will provide the ecosystem that we will charge for. But initially, it is actually free. So we're definitely right now in the mode of getting as many people onboarded and using the product as possible.
That's great. Tell us about the raise that you just finalized.
Yeah, we're very excited. $8.5 million for our seed. Kelly, of course, you're part of that. Thank you for your support. We have other great investors, folks like Neuberger Berman, Brevin Howard, Circle, who we're also using as the USDC for the product, and others that are really great investors. I think this is one of those companies where our infrastructure and everything we're doing is crypto in terms of essentially the rails that we're building, but we're also dealing with a lot of industries that are outside of crypto. So we need investors that are kind of in both camps and that can help us and connect us to the relevant companies. At the same time as we're making progress here on the product, it's been really helpful to have investors that really understand how we can have rails that are crypto based, but then make it a really easy user experience where, as an enterprise that's using us, they don't even know that this is going over USDC rails, as an example.
We have a lot of other founders and aspiring founders that listen to the Pirate Pod. What's your advice to people raising in this current environment?
Well, it is definitely tough. No question there. I think for us, I think the key has been to really make sure that we understand the pain points that we're trying to solve for. And I think one thing that, Craig has been amazing at is pushing the team to, iterate as quickly as possible, and then just put the product out there. Craig, I think you said it really well a couple of days ago to me. I think you should repeat that here, because I think I related to that really well.
The only way that you're going to know if you're onto something is by shipping. You need to get the product out there, and the market is going to tell you how stupid your idea is. And then you need to take that and you need to iterate, and you need to be prepared, because there's no way to do this without chewing glass and staring into the abyss. It is incredibly soul crushing and painful, and you got to own that. And the market's going to smack you every single morning, and you got to continue to put that product out, because without that, if you kind of stay in an ivory tower of academic ideas, you're never going to get to that magical product market fit.
I love that, Amir. Thank you for making Craig lay that out for us so crisply, directly. Well, congratulations on the recent success, especially the raise. What do you think is the next big milestones? What's the next big things we see from SkyFire coming on the heels of the new capital?
So by the time this goes live, we will have launched the business publicly. We'll be excited about that. And then more importantly, we're in discussions with a lot of great companies and partnerships. So we'll be announcing that in the next few months. I think the biggest challenge for us is there's so many different use cases that we have opportunity to work on. But it's about how we prioritize and really make sure that we're focusing on the right priorities based on what the developers are giving us feedback on. And that's been really fun to do because we've been engaged with a large number of both small and medium size and a couple of very large companies, and trying to prioritize between those with a small team is always a big challenge. But we're excited about it because if those challenges weren't there, then we'd probably be iterating to a totally different product. So the fact that the demand is there and the interest is there is what has us excited. So we'll be announcing some of those, and then Craig, you want to cover some of the product launches?
Yeah,
few months that
absolutely.
we'll be
So we're live in
announcing?
beta today. So like I mentioned, anybody can sign up for this and actually start making payments in this fashion. Set up your own agent to make payments for the services we have. We're spending a lot of time working on a self-sign-up experience, so anybody can monetize their APIs in this fashion. But in the meantime, we're also working with a lot of awesome service providers who want to use this as a way of selling to agents. And so we should have some pretty big news in the next couple months in terms of new things coming on. If you're listening to this and you have a service to say, hey, I want to sell to AI agents because my next users are going to be AI agents, probably not people, reach out to us because we'll get you on the network and allow you to sell through that. And after that, once we have the announcements around the sellers that we have on, there's a ton of exciting services that we're lining up that are going to make the network even better. Amir was already talking about this digital identity concept, which we think is kind of fundamental to the whole network, and a number of other verification services that are going to make it easy for these sellers and buyers to connect and work with each other. So a ton happening over the next 3 months, and we'll be very vocal with each of those launches.
That's fabulous. Wonderful. And where can people go to follow you on Twitter, on X, on your website?
Yeah. So we are Try SkyFire on Twitter. And then you can visit our website at skyfire.xyz. Sign up for the beta.
Awesome. Amir, Craig, thank you both for coming on the Pirate Pod today. Really appreciate you taking the time to showcase what you're working on.
Hey, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.